the church has a lot of influence as far as sizable Christian constituencies are, and that's a very plus point, because the church has lost confidence in the BJP government, the current one. It had extreme confidence when Manoj Parrikar was there way back in 2012, but it has no confidence in the current government, even though they have 15 MLAs who are Catholic MLAs. Okay. Right. Second, they have no faith in the Congress, though they are more aligned to support the Congress. They could have supported, but they don't have faith in them. Why? Because they believe that the Congress MLAs could go and join the BJP. Yeah. Right? So they have no other option. In choice of not having an option, because they see a lot of fresh young faces coming out in the AAP, who are not directly linked to politics at any point, or who have not made their mark as far as corruption or any of these black marks are concerned, they will choose to give them the support.
Hello, very good evening and welcome to Chitta Media. I'm your host Sharan Sethi. We were discussing Goa elections with Savio Rodriguez a few weeks before, and we decided that it's a very important election. And normally Goa is written off as a small state, but still it is such a cultural symbol for India. A lot of international tourists come to India, and Goa is much more beyond that. And that is the point of the conversation that we are going to have today, so that our viewers are enlightened more about what the concerns of the Goans are today. So in that sense, this episode will be more about crimes, corruption, and the other angles, the underbelly of Goa that people are extremely worried about and seems to be the political agenda that the politicians need to take note of. So, Savioji, thank you so much for joining. Is Goa safe? Thank you. Is Goa safe?
Goa is 110% safe. It's safe for women, it's safe for children, it's safe for men. However, just like every other state, you will have incidents of crimes. There's been a spate of an increase in crimes. But in context to whether it's safe for tourists, safe for the people in Goa, I would still come out and say it's 110% safe.
Right. This is why I asked you this question. It was more of a protruding question, because only when tourists, especially international tourists, find Goa unsafe because of one or two incidents that happen, that is when the media picks up on it. But for a very long time, the locals have seen much more bigger issues, and that doesn't seem to be getting the national attention. And why I ask you this is because you wrote a very emotional article, or a letter rather, to Prime Minister Modi very recently, which has gone viral on social media. And if I may quote one of the paragraphs from the letter, you say, "I'm a father of 2 daughters. I know the pain of being a parent. That's why I even fought the Catholic Church in India and internationally over sexual abuse cases." What was the context of this letter for our viewers, for those who don't know?
Well, okay. The letter, which is addressed to Mr. Modi, was basically titled, "You have to make a choice of a friend over a rape accused." Now, there is an MLA that was in Congress. He won the Panjim seat. The Panjim constituency is a constituency that belongs to Mr. Manoj Parrikar. He has nurtured that constituency for many years. Right. And Manoj Parrikar was the epitome of what you call righteous politician as far as Goa is concerned, and even as far as India is concerned. It's very rare to find a man of such intellect and integrity, right?
Right.
Nevertheless, Babu stood for the election when Manoj Parrikar moved on to post his demise. He stood for the election on a Congress ticket. He defeated the BJP candidate. There was an understanding, which I learned of later, that certain people who wanted Babush to come from different political parties, including the BJP, ensured that he won the election and the BJP candidate lost the election. Okay. Right. Babush got into Congress, and after a couple of months, there was a mass exodus of 10 Congress MLAs that joined the BJP. thereby ensuring that BJP has 27 MLAs. While they were already in power, it's not that they were not in power, they were already in power. Nevertheless, they broke off from the alliances that they had, Goa Forward Party and Maharashtrawadi Gomantak Party, and decided to take the 10 Congress MLAs. One of the 10 Congress MLAs was Babush Monserrat. Why is Babush Monserrat important? Is because he controls at least 4 constituencies around the Tiswadi Taluka, or as you would call it. One of it was his wife, and 2 were people that he was connected to or probably helped in terms of winning the election.
Right.
Now, the problem I had raised even then, because at that point of time, Babush Monserrat was accused in a case of raping a minor, following which he was charge sheeted by the Goa police that was at that point of time under the BJP government for raping a minor. Now, they inducted him. I raised an issue at that point of time. They continue to carry on with the induction. Now we come to a stage where there is an election that is due. The BJP has been very strong and very committed in its efforts with regards to protecting the welfare of women, protecting the welfare of a girl child, right? What does Babush Monserrat symbolizes? He's got lots of corruption cases against him. There were many activities that he's made Goa popular for on national television, being caught with foreign currency at the airport, being accused of this rape. Rioting is another case that is there in court with regards to him and his wife, Jennifer Monserrat. But to me, those are all cases that I will keep at a low level when it comes to the modesty and the value that we attach to a girl child, right? Now, many people have made many allegations against the girl when this case had come out, saying that it was consensual, she looked like she was 25 years, etc., etc. And it's normal that people talk rubbish when it comes to a woman, and in this case, a girl child. She was 16 years old, that was known, and the act was committed. My only argument with them was, whether you think it was consensual, whether you think the girl was of loose character, the fact of the matter is, what was her age? The age was 16.
Right.
And as per the law,
it's still illegal.
Right. It is illegal, it is wrong, it's morally, ethically wrong. Which is why it is morally, ethically wrong for somebody like Mr. Modi, who has stood up for rights of women and children, to actually go about allowing for the BJP in Goa, right, to support this man and to even consider giving him a ticket. Now, I'm saying, yes, is he a powerful politician? Of course he is. I'm aware of that fact. I know he can win that election because he has the money power to win it. The fact of the matter is, where do we draw the line as far as principles and politics are concerned? BJP came in Goa when Mr. Manohar Parrikar was around on the principles of being a party with a difference. Mr. Modi has captured the hearts of millions of Indians and non-Indians around the world because of the principles that he carries along with him. And those are the sanskars, as you call it, the Indian sanskars, the Bharatiya sanskars, right? In such a situation, how do you expect me, who has been fighting for the cause of sexual abuse against a larger institution around the world, like the Catholic Church, and even got some of the Christians to understand that we are fighting evil. We're not fighting the faith. We're not fighting the beliefs of people. We're fighting an evil within the institution that's been allowed and covered up by certain people within the institution. Right? So in much the same way, when it comes to my state in Goa, it would be absolutely wrong for me to extend support to the BJP in Goa when this man continues to be a part of the BJP. Right. Which is why, if you look at anything that I have done over the past since his induction, I have never come out and supported the BJP in Goa. I cannot support the BJP in Goa when a man, he's accused of raping a minor, charge seated for raping a minor, continues to be a part of the party. It is time for BJP in Goa to realize that these are not small matters. These are matters of great character. These are matters of great integrity that show in light of the fact that we are an evolved society. The youth of today is an evolved youth. They can see what's happening around. They know the value of respecting a woman, respecting a girl. Is this the value systems we want to give the future? That we will, because for political machination reasons, we will support a politician who's accused of raping a minor. I'm saying I have no problem if the charges are off and he comes back in contest. Who am I to have a problem with that? But as long as the charges stay on him, charge sheeted, then it is not fair for him to be a part of BJP or any political party for that matter.
Right. No, because of the calculation of this political arithmetic. Even last time we were discussing about Operation Kamla, that's happened in Goa, that's happened in Karnataka as well. So you saw a lot of these people who were ideologically off the spectrum on the other side. And I don't even know if those MLAs had any ideology to begin with, because essentially they run on muscle power and money. They are indoctrinated into a certain party and they have no idea as to what the values of the party is and what the principles of the party are.
Yes, but the party, my friend Sharan, the party is indoctrinated with an ideology. The party is indoctrinated with principles. The head of the party within the state in Goa and at the center do come from that upbringing within the ideologies of that party itself. Why are they turning a blind eye to this fact?
Right.
Imagine this, right? Now, here's the hypocrisy, Sharan. MJ Akbar, okay, who was an MP, has several allegations against him. Of course, none of them were proved, but there were allegations and some of them very serious allegations.
Right.
Was he not asked to resign? He was. Shengar, during the Unnao case in UP, there was a huge uproar. Okay, again, his case was raping a minor, 16-year-old girl, just like Babush Mansara. Right? Was he not asked to step down?
Right.
He was. They do the reverse in Goa.
Has the Goa BJP taken cognizance of this? What is their stand on this?
Well, the Goa BJP inducted him, so obviously the stand is very clear. They are obviously fully aware because it was their police. It was the police and under their government that allowed for him to be charge sheeted, no?
Right.
So I'm not willing to say, except that they are not aware of his antecedents. Even a youth on the road will tell you Babush Mansara's antecedents.
Right.
I'm not looking at his corruption or his criminality with other aspects. I'm looking at it purely on the fact that this guy is charge sheeted for raping a minor.
Right. It is an extremely serious crime. So in Goa, very recently, have you observed that there is an increase in crime, or has this become an agenda, a political agenda, an electoral agenda for that matter?
No, there has been an increase in crime. There is no doubt on that. Okay. Now, you have to understand two aspects of it. One is the fact that is Goa safe as a state, and are the various destinations in Goa safe to visit? The answer is yes. Okay. Of course, there will be certain element of caution that needs to be taken by all travelers as well as the locals. Sometimes you cannot be expected to be roaming around at about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the night, whether you are a young girl or a young boy, for that matter. Will a crime happen to you? No, not necessarily. But there could be an eventuality when something does happen, and such cases have happened. Okay, where there has been a rape of girls when they were late at night at the beach. Pretty recently, there's been increase in crime where people were murdered. There was another girl, Siddhi Nayak, whose body was found at the Kalangut beach, semi-nude. So there are several issues where crime has increased. The police have also acted in some cases, and in some cases they have failed to act. You see, the problem in Goa, which I think it's got a lot to do with the image of Goa.
Right.
So when you have a lot of people coming in as tourists coming into Goa, there are the genuine tourists that come with family and have a great time. And then there are the people who come in for the activities, for the party, which is also decent in some cases. And then there is a little lot of people who come in for the nefarious activities that Goa's underbelly is known for. And it is when you get into this underbelly of Goa that police have spoken about at several times. You know, the drugs, the sex massage parlors that used to exist.
Yeah.
Some might exist even now post-COVID relaxation.
Hmm.
People tend to throng to Goa. In some of them, throng to Goa for this, and you know there's a perception created around Goa that it's all about sex and drugs and booze,
Right.
and that's not true. That's absolutely not true. But when there is a crime that gets active, it gets reported. And because there's so much of media in Goa today, there's so much of media outside of Goa today, everything that's related to Goa, because it's got an international image, gets highlighted. It's as simple as that. But is crimes increasing? Yes. Is there a need to upgrade the criminal system in terms of the police system, sorry, not the criminal system, but the criminal identification system? Yes. I think the police need to be more vigilant. I think the police themselves, in certain sections of the police, need to understand that their loyalty lies towards the people, not so much to the corruption that some of them have been accused of.
Right. It's very interesting to see the characteristics of BJP from every state to the other, because even if you talk about beef ban, the BJP has a completely different approach when it comes to, say, Goa, or even for that matter, the Northeast. So when you look at the polity about the socio-cultural aspects of Goa, perhaps do you feel that somehow the BJP as a party is incompatible to the party life and the narcotics that Goa is known for? So how does it balance itself amid?
Not really. Okay. Sean, first thing, as far as Goa is concerned and as far as the beef issue is concerned, the Constitution spoke about a ban on cow slaughter way back in 1952,
Correct.
when the Constitution was drafted, right? The states were allowed with the choice of choosing whether they wanted to adopt that law at a state level. Okay,
Right.
that constitutional thing. Goa was one of the states in 1978 that adopted a ban of cow slaughter, and that law continued.
Right.
Okay, so beef is not banned in Goa. There is a ban on cow slaughter.
Right.
Okay, and so what used to happen before, and when people were not enforcing the law itself, there used to be a whole lot of slaughtering. That was what we would consider to be illegal slaughtering happened at different places, right? That's when the government in Goa decided to route all the slaughter of the livestock to what would be called an abattoir. So that's the Goa meat complex, where everybody comes in from there. So if you're telling me beef is banned, no, I don't agree with that. Beef is not banned in Goa. Okay.
Right.
Ban that exists is a ban on cow slaughter that existed from 1978. It had nothing to do with the BJP government at all.
Sure.
In as simple as legal terms as that.
Right. And as far as dealing with the policies towards casinos and other revenue generation methods, for example, allowing international parties to happen. So how does the Goa BJP define itself as far as these issues are concerned?
See, okay. The aspect of Goa, which is very unique, and it's irrespective of a political party. The aspects of Goa is very unique that it's got a blend of cultural finesse, which is what people would consider to be activities or tourist-based activities. Goa's always had a party life, whether the tourists came in or not. And in Goa, you don't need to be a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian to have a certain level of party. You all party the same way.
Right.
So it's not like other states where there is this social accepted norm of the Hindus partying in a particular way and the Muslims partying in a particular way and the Christians partying in a particular way, or the Parsis partying in a complete fantastic way.
Right.
The point is, in Goa, everybody parties.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody parties, everybody enjoys. Goa used to be a place, Sharan, where you could keep the doors of your house, because most of us at that point of time, say about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, used to, from what my cousins and my family tell me, that they used to keep their doors open in the villages and people would move from one place to another place and not be worried. I don't think that Goa exists anymore because there is a lot of fear. There's been an increasing spate of crimes that have happened, robberies that have happened. So with the, I wouldn't call it urbanization because Goa is already urbanization, but with the increase of migrant population for one, search for job opportunities in what is considered to be the Hawaii of India. You think that Hawaii come Las Vegas now with the casinos. Many people flock to Goa looking for better opportunities, and you will see a lot of people wanting to look for jobs. Jobs available to people. Most of them end up being migrant workers, and therefore and then there are some who don't have anything, and that's the reason they choose to have a life of crime, and that's why the spate of robberies happen, because they're seeing a distinct difference in what we would consider to be opulence in some of the people and poverty in some of the people, right? So that social divide is what creates the rise in crime. So while migrant population in Goa has flourished in the educated segment, migrant population that come in at a lower level, which is to do with the masons and the plumbers and various other things, because these are not jobs necessarily done by Goans. These are jobs mostly done by the migrant population.
So you do agree that there is a narrative, if I have to paraphrase Donald Trump, the immigrants come in, they bring in crimes and they bring in whatnot. So, but
no,
on the serious note,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the rest, just like Goa is a part of the rest of India, the rest of Indians are a part of Goa. And they're most welcome to come into Goa. I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying when you come, it's the ideology. When you're coming into Goa and you're expecting it to be a place of having all the opportunities for you, because obviously there is a vacuum, right? The Goans from here and want for better jobs are going to cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, Dubai, UK. Some are going to the cruise liners because of the parity of income, right? Goa has a very high per capita income, but that per capita income's got a lot to do with the foreign remittances that are coming into Goa individually to the families that they are. That's why these families could have 2 cars, 3 bikes, and be absolutely well-to-do. And then there are some people in society who are not, right? So there is a brain drain that is happening. And then there is the migrant population coming in that's adding value because there is nobody else to do the job, right? But where is the criminality coming in? The criminality is coming in when there is a social divide between the dreams and the nightmares, basically. So when people don't have what they're looking for, they're increasing. That's where the crimes are increasing. Now let's look at the northern side, which has a lot of the tourism aspect of things, where you have a lot of parties, you have a lot of alcohol flowing, you have a lot of
Also, sorry to interrupt you, but statistically speaking, is North Goa higher in crimes?
Well, actually, they're both equal, if you were to ask me. But yes, technically, most of the day-to-day on a regular basis, yes, it would have to be North Goa, but I think you have a fair share in South Goa as well.
Right.
The point I'm trying to make is this: Goa is an economy that's developing. There will be a lot of interest from people outside of Goa, and they're most welcome to come to add value to Goa. What we need to understand is how do we create a balance. Now, let me give you an example. Okay, Goa's population is 14 lakh, which means the resources available to Goa can cater to 14 lakh people. Now, let's take an ambitious project like the Mopa International Airport, where you already have a Dabolim International Airport.
Right.
The belief is that you're going to expect anywhere between 15 million tourists to 20 million tourists over the next 20 years because of the Mopa International Airport. So 14 lakh people really works out to 1.4 million.
Right.
Technically, right? So 10 lakh works out to how much? 100 million people? 10 million works out to how many people?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
1.4 million is the actual
population, right?
Population of Goa.
Got it.
By the Mopa International Airport, we are supposed to touch 10 million to 20 million targets in 20-25 years.
That's a 1:10 ratio. That's practically impossible.
No, but they will make it possible. It's been done in Bombay, no? Bombay 40 years ago had almost similar population like Goa.
But do you aspire to be like that?
No, we don't. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Goa cannot be a Mumbai. Goa cannot be a Shanghai. Goa cannot be a Macau. Because you know what will happen? You will change the demographics and the ecological demographics of Goa. And that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. It will kill Goa. I mean, you can give any reason you want to say that we want economic development, we want economies, we want to do this, we want to do that. But there are some things that are not permissible and should not be done.
Right.
It's like going and taking an Aishwarya Rai who looks very beautiful, and saying, okay, I don't like the way you look. I'm going to make you look like, say, Jacqueline Fernandez. Both are very beautiful, but Aishwarya, of course, looks like a goddess.
Right.
And Jacqueline, beautiful as she is dolled up.
Right. So in terms of, if you were to place this in a particular order, what would be the order of the electoral agenda for this election? In terms of what the people want, not what the parties.
The first thing that people want is employment. Unemployment is increased in Goa.
But in spite
month
of
on month, it's
this
increased.
coming in, why is there unemployment issue in Goa?
Okay, let me tell you why there is an unemployment issue. The general belief of employment in Goa has always been a government job.
Right.
Right? That is what political parties have been mouthing for years. Employment yardsticks are government jobs. So you have to get a government job, whether it's in a police, whether it's an administrative, whatever. What the government has failed to do, or has been slow to do rather, is in increasing entrepreneurship. Right? So entrepreneurship allows for you to create jobs. Now the problem is, because people from Goa, and because they are connected, they travel, they are a little affluent, the comparison salary expectations that they have, and which is not wrong, is comparable to, say, a city in Mumbai or Bangalore or a Chennai, right? So let's say an average person who passes out wants to come in and get paid between 15 to 20,000, right?
Yeah.
He's not wrong in his aspiration. He's right in his aspiration. But because you can get people coming from other states at 8 to 10,000 rupees, people opt for that. So the Goan does not take a job that pays him 8 to 10,000 rupees because he considers it's not his salary. He needs the expenses are too much in Goa. Traveling itself is a huge expense, right? So he chooses and he opts to go outside of Goa, or he chooses to do nothing, and which is why the unemployment goes up.
Right. The last time we spoke, Mamata Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal were, about to enter Goa, when their hoardings were put across every city in Goa. So has the campaigning been rather fruitful for them?
Okay. Here's my view. Okay, like over the last time that we spoke and what's happening now, AAP is gaining a lot of traction as far as Goa is concerned. Okay. They're getting traction as a party, not because of Kejriwal. In fact, in my personal opinion, and it's something I've told the AAP people in Goa as well, who are good friends of mine, that Kejriwal could probably be your biggest problem as far as Goa is concerned.
Right.
So make sure that you take his face out of all the posters. Because otherwise people will connect with you. As long as you have Kejriwal, people are not going to connect with you because they don't care about the Kejriwal, or they don't care about anybody coming from Delhi. That's number one. Number two is AAP has got the confidence of the church in Goa. And the church has a lot of influence as far as sizable Christian constituencies are. And that's a very plus point, because the church has lost confidence in the BJP government, the current one. It had extreme confidence when Manoj Parrikar was there way back in 2012, but it has no confidence in the current government, even though they have 15 MLAs who are Catholic MLAs. Okay.
Right.
Second, they have no faith in the Congress, though they are more aligned to support the Congress. They could have supported, but they don't have faith in them. Why? Because they believe that the Congress MLAs could go and join the BJP.
Yeah. Right.
Right? So they have no other option. In
Okay.
choice of not having an option, because they see a lot of fresh young faces coming out in the AAP, who are not directly linked to politics at any point, or who have not made their mark as far as corruption or any of these black marks are concerned, they will choose to give them the support. As of today, it could change over the next 1 month and they could swing to the Congress as well. But as of today, they're with the AAP. The Trinamool Congress, on the other hand, has the money, has IPAC's Prashant Kishore with them, and there is no doubt that they're smart in their activities. But even the smartest has lost in Goa. Simple reason being, you don't understand the nature of the Goans. The nature of the Goans is a little different. They're very passionate about Goa. So let me give you an example. When Congress was corrupt in 2009, 2007, right up to 2012, the people of Goa, led by an inspirational leader, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, decided to knock the corrupt Congress out. They were at about 23 seats at that point of time, 22, 23 seats. Right. They dropped down to 9 seats. They were arrogant to the core. If we 4 tickets to a family, 2 tickets to other families, they thought that they were the oligarchs, the mafia of Goa. And all it took was a band of merry men and Manohar Parrikar to knock them off. And it happened. In 2017, with Manohar Parrikar going to the center and Manohar Parrikar leaving Goa with Lakshmikant Parsekar instead of Francis D'Souza at that point of time, there was a little bit of an alteration in the faith they had in Manohar Parrikar, right, from a Catholic Church point of view. So in 2017, the Congress was forgiven and they came up to 17 seats, but they couldn't form the government. In this time, the BJP has absolutely no confidence of the church.
Right.
Okay. More so, the arrogance in some of the BJP leaders is pretty evident all around. So they are assuming that, okay, with Modi's great image in across India, in Delhi and the rest of the world, they might sail through. It won't happen. It won't happen. BJP as of today is, in my reading, 14 seats. They're not going to increase. If they continue this way, they will decrease. Right. BJP at any point of time within the next 15 to 20 days, if they don't take corrective measures, could drop down to 10 or less than 10.
Right. It's very interesting that you say that about Aam Aadmi Party as well, because this is what happened in Punjab as well, right? Kejriwal goes there, he sees that the general sentiment of the crowd is towards Aam Aadmi Party to a large degree, and then he declares himself the chief ministerial candidate there. And even in other states, I think the parties based out of Delhi need to realize that the local sentiments need to be respected. And a sense of over interference would probably not go down well. But Savioji, what interested me was also that Manish Sisodia declared that a Bhandari would become a chief minister if the Aam Aadmi Party comes to power. So, where is this coming from?
Okay, no, it's not a bad strategy at all.
Achha.
As a strategy, it's a damn good strategy. It's Bhandari Samaj and a deputy CM from the Catholic community is a brilliant strategy.
Right.
I've always maintained that Goa can never be divided on the basis of religion.
Right.
Because nobody has a problem with religion in Goa. But they can be polarized on the basis of caste.
Right.
Okay. Now, the Bhandari Samaj as a caste has always considered themselves to be neglected as far as the top positions in the government are concerned. Top meaning the chief minister's chair. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. In 2007, when Congress won the elections, in Cidade de Goa, from whatever my limited memory is, there was a decision taking that Ravi Nayak, who was then one of the most prominent leaders of the Congress from the Bandari Samaj, was to be the chief minister of Goa. It was almost getting to get declared on media. And suddenly in half an hour, it changes and you had Digambar Kamath, who's a Saraswat Brahmin, completely with the mining lobby, the business lobby, who was declared as the chief minister.
Right.
So that is how Congress put the Bandari Samaj, and they started to accommodate them as party presidents, etc. Right?
Right.
When Manohar Parrikar came, Manohar Parrikar obviously was the rightful leader, and it didn't matter whether he came from the Saraswat Brahmin community or not. He was the face. So he led and he became the chief minister. But when he left to go to Delhi as the Union Defense Minister, he had an option to do two things, which in my understanding was the biggest error that BJP made in Goa. They did not elevate Francis D'Souza, who was the deputy chief minister at that time, to chief minister position. In fact, they took the number 3, who was Lakshmikant Parsekar, who was the party president, who was then made the chief minister. So by doing that, of course, D'Souza was upset about it. He made a couple of comments on it, and then he was calmed down and he was pacified.
Yeah.
But the people noticed it. The church noticed it. The Christian community noticed it, and they kept it in their heart. Number one. Number two, they also had the option of Mr. Shripad Nayak, who then went with Mr. Parrikar to the center, and he took charge of the Ayush Ministry as Minister of State. When Manohar Parrikar moved on and we went through his demise, they had the option then again to bring Shripad Nayak, who was a Bandari Samaj guy.
Right.
But they didn't bring him then as well, and they're not bringing him even now.
Right.
So in the minds of the Bandari Samaj, they are asking the simple question is, why are we not getting the opportunity to be in the CM chair? That's the problem. So what AAP did was AAP just took that strategy and gave it to them. Because if you combine the Bandari Samaj voter base with the Christian voter base, right, in almost 20 constituencies in Goa, a combination of the two of them at almost 30 to 40% with any voter can win the election.
Yeah, right. It's almost 40-45% of the seats.
Yeah, it's 50% of the seat, 40 seats. So
Right.
20 seats controlled by Bandari Samaj. In fact, a little more, but I'm just giving you based on what crosses a 40% mark.
Conservative numbers, right?
That's where the numbers, then in some cases it becomes 85%.
Right.
Like let's take a
But in
constituency
reality,
like
are
Dubai.
Bandari slowly moving towards the Aam Aadmi Party?
Yes,
Okay.
they will. I mean, they just need to find the Christian voice. They don't have the Christian voice right now. Somebody who can fight for the. So an ideal combination is, well, technically there is no caste system as far as Christianity is concerned, but it's still a deep-rooted nonsense that exists in Goa. So you would have, like when I first came to Goa, the first thing I was asked by certain people is, so what's the caste of your wife? I said, I don't know what my caste is. How am I supposed to know my wife's caste? You guys are absurd. Some very overzealous Christian with a caste background for some reason asked me that. And I went and asked my mom. I said, Mom, what caste do I come from? Because they're asking me what's Myrtle's caste. And so I'm trying to wonder what's my caste. So she turned around and she told me, you're an Indian. Tell them you're an Indian. You've not been brought up with any caste. So I don't know what my caste is. I don't know what my wife's caste is, and I don't care. My parents don't care. We never cared about it. So, but within the Christian community itself, yes, they do exist that these are the upper caste Christians, these are the lower caste Christians. It's very subtle, but it does exist. That's why even marriage is very shaky. You need to know who the family is, are they upper caste or lower caste and all that. But like I said, religion is not the problem. Caste is the problem. So the AAP did pick up that, but whether they will have an impact is only depending on the precision of how they use it.
Right. The commonality in what we have spoken 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago and what we are speaking right now is that every time there is a slight change in the political arithmetic, the Congress seems to be the one who is taking the punches.
True. See,
Because,
the Congress,
I'm assuming that, because of the church supporting the Aam Aadmi Party and the Bhandaris moving towards the Aam Aadmi Party, it's majorly the Congress which is going to get affected.
of course, you see, but don't underestimate the Congress simply because they had a long time of relationship as far as Goa is concerned.
Right.
Even in 2017, when many people told me, no, BJP will come into power, I said, no, there is something that will bring Congress in power, because I could just see it. It's the Congress in Goa always starts with 8 seats. That's the Salsette bastion. Okay, that's the Christian-dominated bastion of South Goa. So when you start counting electoral polls and you do your analysis and all that, all these guys that come from outside of Goa have absolutely no understanding of how Goa works.
Yeah.
So they give these fantastic reports that BJP is going to get majority. Dr. Pramod Sawant is the most ideal CM candidate. Let me tell you, honestly, that's all humbug.
Right.
Right now, Dr. Pramod Sawant may not necessarily be the ideal CM candidate. He might get 25% voters value, but the 75% of the voters have not consolidated. They will consolidate to one person. Then he won't be the most liked person, right? Second, because you think because BJP's got so many seats, MLAs with them, you think that people are going to swing to them? The answer is no. Goa votes differently. Goa thinks differently.
Right.
It's been proven time and again. The ground force of Goa, the ground people, the silent players in Goa are really the ones that control the outcome of an election. And if today Goa decides, I'm saying this again, today if Goa decides to ensure that BJP sits in the opposition, then BJP will sit in the opposition.
Right.
And no matter who the power of the BJP is, even Mr. Modi will not be able to sway the people of Goa if he doesn't understand what the people of Goa want. The aspirational value of Goa lies in its youth and lies in its women population. Okay, historically Goa has been very, very economically strong, even when we were ruled by the Portuguese. Right, we were very successful as a territory within the Portuguese, and of course they robbed us of everything that we had. Right. But we still were successful, and we continue to be successful because of our mind, because of our ability to understand that contentment is driven by having little and spending more time with doing the right things in life. Okay, politicians that come in from outside of Goa, including BJP, Congress, Trinamool Congress, Aam Aadmi Party, and some of the local leaders who have forged alliances with people outside of Goa, assume that the aspirational value of the Goan is to become like a Mumbai, is to become like a Shanghai. And that's not true. The aspirational level of a Goan is to be a Goa.
Right.
So if you scuttle that aspirational value of the people, you're actually then disappointing them, because please understand, the people of Goa, it was not 1857 that was the first war against a foreign power. It was 1583 in Goa, when people in the villages of Asona, Veli, Kunkuli fought the Portuguese. So to us, BJP, Congress, Trinamool Congress, AAP, whoever you are, if you go against the wills of the people of Goa, we will go against you.
Beautiful. Very nicely said. Thank you so much again for joining, and we'll do one more session very soon.
Thank you, Sharan. God bless you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.